Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd.
So it's another beautiful week in the astrology. Every week is special in the astrology, and that is something that definitely makes it special to me. This week we have, of course, we are working off of the energies of that big Sagittarius full moon that we had over the weekend. How was that for you? Did that feel excellent? Did it feel overwhelming? How was that? Sagittarius is a big energy ruled by the planet of Jupiter. So it can be definitely excited and exaggerated almost. It's also a full moon, illuminates things, brings things into the light. So there was something over the weekend that we were presented with during this full moon cycle, an opportunity to have culmination within themes around Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules higher education, the higher mind. Sagittarius rules adventure, philosophy, religion, beliefs. Your belief system is very much tied into Sagittarius. And so, if you were not able to focus on these full moon energies on the day of the full moon, which was June 3rd, you still have plenty of time because we feel these full and new moons for 2 weeks moving in and out of them. We had another big energy change early this week with many more to come. Venus moved into the sign of Leo yesterday. Yeah, she is in a fire sign. And have you seen her bright in the sky as the sun is setting? She becomes extremely bright as the evening star right now, shining in Leo through her heart, because Leo is a heart-centered sign and rules our passions and what makes us feel truly, alive within ourselves, within those things that we're passionate about. So Venus is the planet of love. She's the planet of relationships and money. And moving into the sign of Leo, it's a fire sign. We're going to be sparking. We're going to be having a little bit of a new fire, sparking here. So expect it to be exciting. And also Venus has moved into Leo, and she is going to be there for quite a while because we have a kind of rare Venus retrograde going to be coming up, and she's going to be spending 7 months in the sign of Leo. So we're going to have plenty of time to chat about the influence that Leo has on her and how she behaves there and what we're going to be working on over the course of the upcoming Venus retrograde. I mentioned that Venus rules relationships and money mostly. And so we're going to be taking some time to review some of these themes in our lives. And so this, movement of her just moving into that sign where she's going to be inhabiting for quite a while just kind of starts that cycle. Now she's a little ways off from actually entering her own shadow and moving retrograde, but this is like getting us thinking about it. It's putting that energy there. And so we'll be chatting much more about this coming up. Of course, we're in Gemini season. The sun is in Gemini. So all things Gemini are our focus right now, which is socialization, intellectualizing, networking, communicating, thinking, having ideas, flushing through ideas, just lots of ideas all over the place. Gemini is a very curious sign, so that's why it's an intellectual, we're thinking, we're considering, we're diving into information and thinking and considering our options. And we just had also over the weekend, Mercury in a conjunction with the planet of Uranus. Mercury is a planet that rules Gemini. And so during Gemini season, we kind of want to watch what Mercury's doing, right? Because we can kind of see what that ruling planet is, what it's doing to influence its own little season of Gemini. And Uranus is the planet of surprises and awakenings. And so Mercury just made contact, had a stiff communication with Uranus, came to some big, bright awakening. This happened over the weekend also. So with the full moon and this big communication from Mercury to Uranus this weekend, boom, that was a pretty big one. So if you had like some big conversations, or if you had a mental breakthrough or something, some big idea that came to you and you're just like, I have to do that. It has to be done. Well, I'm here to tell you that it probably should be explored. Just kind of moving into this week's energy, I just really felt like it was important, though, to kind of preface where we have been, because we're still hot off of all of that. And with Venus just moving into her sort of retrograde sign, I wanted to also mention that she has a T-square with the nodes of fate this week. And I've been talking about the nodes of fate a lot, haven't I? Because we just had eclipses, and that involves the nodes. It's this destined time, 444 on my clocks. And we just were talking all about Pluto, and Pluto is still actively in this T-square. We had Mars come through and make the Grand Cross. Well, now Venus is coming through and basically making this Grand Cross again. And she's going to be opposing Pluto and looking at places where she needs to make endings happen for new beginnings to start. That is just what Pluto does when you have an engagement with a planet and Pluto. Pluto finds a way to make endings and new beginnings out of the themes of that other oppositional planet. And because we're in the T-square with the nodes, it's destined. It's fated. We just talked about Venus energy and what that represents. I mean, relationships, love, but also balance and harmony and money, financial flow, so it's not only in regards to relationships that Venus rules. This is also our relationships with ourselves. I also like to point out we have all these different relationships with different parts of ourselves, our physical body, our spiritual body, our emotional body, our mental body. And so all these different relationships, they need to be tended to also, just like in a relationship with another person, I want to make sure it's all balanced. Well, this relationship with ourselves, we need to also be tending to and keeping that balanced. So I definitely see this, this fixed cross, this Venus-Pluto opposition as sort of the end of one way of seeing and loving and valuing yourself or your relationships or things in your life, and taking on a new system around that, a new system of how we show people that they're valued, how we show ourselves that we value ourselves. What have you done? What have you done for yourself today? What did you do for yourself last week? What did you do for yourself last month? And if you said nothing to all of those, then, some of that tending may be a good place to start this week. Venus is going to be bringing in balance and harmonious vibes around all of this. And also, so that is occurring, Venus squaring the nodes of fate. That's happening on Thursday the 8th, and her opposition with Pluto actually happened just yesterday. So this week it's a little bit spread out, but this week is basically reactivating that grand fixed cross that Mars just had, and Venus is coming through and having these conversations, and it's not over yet because Pluto is going to be squaring the nodes for many months still to come. So every time that a planet comes sweeping through to oppose Pluto, it's going to be also in this T-square with the nodes of fate. So all of these endings and new beginnings and things that are going to be activated and reactivated with this Pluto communication, it's all gonna be happening again when the sun comes through and when Mercury comes through. So we'll keep watching this. Of course, we're gonna be working with Venus a lot over the next few months with the retrograde. But on June 9th, there is a really sweet spot. It does feel like maybe earlier in the week can be a little bit more heavy, like a little more heavy alignment, a little more heavier themes, but on Friday, June 9th, here on the West Coast of the United States, Mercury is going to be in a sextile with Neptune. And this is a really great opportunity to access a more dreamy state. Things have felt kind of serious lately. And actually, we do have the moon coming into a conjunction with Saturn also on June 9th. So can have a little bit of a serious vibe. Like, no, I just need to make sure that my responsibilities are taken care of, but also the opportunity to dream and for Mercury to be in like more of a dreamy, hopey, in the state of being connected to the hopes, the dreams, the desires, anything that, we're dreaming about or things we might be preparing. Or this is also a very spiritual area to access for the mind, as Neptune represents everything spiritual, like dissolves all boundaries and just like puts you in this really floaty state. So this could also be kind of challenging for communication. Like if you're trying to have real down to earth communication, it could feel a little too dreamy. So if you've got like some serious communicating to do, probably try and avoid it during this evening of Friday, June 9th. Maybe choose to watch something kind of fantastic, like go into like a fantasy movie or like play music, do something that like doesn't have any boundaries, that includes your art history on Friday night. I think that is a really, really great opportunity to have a little bit of respite from what might feel like a bit of a more serious week. Going into the weekend, we have a couple more pretty big shifts taking place. So we've been working with Pluto moving in a retrograde fashion now. Pluto's in retrograde. We also have Saturn in retrograde and other planets sort of slowing down to go retrograde here over the next month or two also. And Pluto is going to be re-entering the sign of Capricorn. We've been talking about this. Pluto is the slow-moving planet. Pluto takes up to 20 years to make it through a sign. And Pluto really shows like kind of the main sort of zeitgeist of the times, when you see it as like a 20-year cycle, sort of like a generational cycle, kind of like the focus of a time. And when Pluto shifts into the next sign, it really does. It changes that focus. It's a big shift. It's a big shift of focus. And so Pluto moved into Aquarius earlier this year. We were so excited, but Pluto moves really slowly and does a lot of retrograding. We're going to be moving back into the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is a little bit more of this serious vibe. And so that's kind of why this week also feels a little more serious to me, like kind of like, oh, but I just have so many responsibilities, like kind of in the back of your mind. You're always like, oh, but all of my responsibilities. Capricorn is like ambitious and they want to get things done. Capricorn is a career oriented, very like it's an earth sign too, so grounded, but wants to leave a legacy, wants to make sure that they've done everything that they can do and used all of the things that they have to offer to this planet, to these people, to your community. That is like Capricorn energy. What do I have to offer? for my community? What makes me unique, and how can I offer those things? And so we're going to be revisiting some of these more serious themes before being able to actually move forward again into some new territory, into Aquarius, into an air sign where there's a little more free thinking. It's a little less structural, a little less, focused on getting things done. And it's like a little more like, okay, let's dream a little more about the future. So we're kind of being thrusted this second half of 2023 back into some of these themes that we've been dealing with since 2008 is when Pluto entered the sign of Capricorn. So if you can think back, if you were born, if you were alive, I'm sure I've got some younger listeners here too, but if you were alive in 2008, what were you doing? That was when Pluto entered into Capricorn. And now we have Pluto at the very last degrees of Capricorn. We have the opportunity to, at this time, really, truly be done, but take our time being done with the sign of Capricorn. Take our time, because we're not ever going to re-enter this again unless you plan on living for 245 years. We will not ever experience Pluto in Capricorn again. So that makes it feel to me like truly an opportunity to take it serious, figure out what our responsibilities are here, how we can really end this phase of our life in a responsible manner that's going to help us to feel good about moving forward. It'll be good. It'll be a good thing. And we'll be talking about this more. Also, Mercury is going to be moving into the sign of Gemini on Sunday, June 11th. This is putting Gemini in his home sign. Mercury in his home sign of Gemini, where he functions at his best. He is the best thinker, the best talker, the best communicator, has the best dictation, just is very charismatic, Mercury in Gemini in his home sign. So, I think this is going to be a really good couple of weeks, because Mercury is only going to be in Gemini for like 2 weeks. So use the next 2 weeks wisely, right? And that's a Gemini thing too, to use your time efficiently and to use your mind wisely. Your networking, your connections, the people that you're meeting right now, to be using those connections efficiently, making sure that Gemini season, is going to be most useful for you, and going to provide you with all of the options and give you the opportunity to ask all the questions that you need to. It's highly functioning. So if you're already a highly functioning communicator, it could be a lot. Mercury is still hanging out with Uranus, and so it's definitely still a time for spontaneous communication, and we'll be chatting more about that next week in the cosmic community. Very much appreciate you being tuned in, and this has been Stacey Dredd, your galactic ambassador.
Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.